Last time on Obi-Wan, we tied up the Obi-Wan series, pensive about the ways in which the new era differs from the old. Prequels are a fraught business, expectations are high and the scope for delivering surprises low. Further still, this is no regular prequel. This is the prequel, the definite article. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. It's where we finally get to see where the Obi-Wan Kenobi of A New Hope came from, with his vague anecdotes about the Clone Wars and folksy commitment to an ancient monastic order now irrelevant.
For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic.
Crucially intertwined too the story of Lord Vader, the impassive man behind the mask, the war hero who became the Emperor's right-hand man. Finally, the enigmatic story of Padme, mother to Luke and Leia, absent entirely from the original trilogy.
Are you an angel?
What?
An angel. I heard the deep space pilots talk about them.
Now as well, this is where we get to see where the title character of Disney Plus's Obi-Wan came from, the origin for his principled non-intervention and familiarity with child sidekicks, and the origin of the pained, murderous Vader of that series and his red-hot hatred of the noble Jedi Knights. The spectral figure of Leia's mother described to Leia as wise, discerning, kind-hearted, which really seems to be burying the lead even for this film.
You are wise, discerning, kind-hearted. These are qualities that came from your mother.
Finally, although there isn't the space here to really dig into it, this is the film that crafts fully half of what we consider Star Wars aesthetic, and it looks really great. So much thoughtful design by so many artists went into creating a film that looks unmistakably Star Wars, while throwing out an endless succession of new designs.
Your little insurrection is at an end, Your Highness.
I can't believe there's still slavery in the galaxy.
What is first and most noticeable about The Phantom Menace is that it is a story about slaves. It is bookended with snippets of high drama and action mostly taking place on Naboo, with some laser fights in space and sinister dealings in a humongous senate. The real story, however, sits squarely in the middle acts of the film, the tale of how young Anakin Skywalker, who will one day grow up to be Darth Vader, was once a starry-eyed slave child. The film makes no bones about this focus. Encountering Anakin for the first time, Padme exclaims, "You're a slave?" And Anakin shoots back, "I'm a person."
You're a slave?
I'm a person, and my name is Anakin.
There is a dramatic structure entirely local to Anakin's story. You could make 3 episodes of Obi-Wan out of it were you inclined. Episode 1, a mysterious cloaked man comes to town and meets Anakin, a precocious young engineer who works for a grumpy alien named Watto. Caught in a sandstorm, Anakin offers the man and his friends refuge, and realizes that the man is secretly a Jedi Knight. Episode 2, the mysterious stranger enlists Anakin to race a pod competitively to win the parts to repair his ship, and the price to free Anakin from Watto. Against all odds, Anakin wins. Episode 3, a freed Anakin must pack his things and leave his mother, facing up to the reality that his new friend cannot or will not end slavery on Tatooine. As they finally go to leave, the Jedi is attacked by a horned demon with a red laser sword and barely escapes. Anakin looks forward to his new life as a Jedi Knight, swearing to one day return and end slavery once and for all. The plight of the droids, a slave class to the slave class, is ever present, from Padme thanking R2-D2 to Anakin promising to have Shmi not sell C-3PO.
You've been a great pal. I'll make sure Mom doesn't sell you or anything.
Sell me?
Anakin talks of little else other than his desire to free the slaves, to free his mother, to free himself.
I had a dream I was a Jedi. I came back here and freed all the slaves.
He transparently believes that becoming a Jedi will grant him the power to do this, even though the Jedi Order would never allow it. From the moment he catches glimpse of Qui-Gon's laser sword, it's clear that the idea has gripped him. Conversely, Qui-Gon is fascinated by Anakin, and Neeson does a good, subtle job of portraying him as a man being led on by his instincts against his logical judgment. He reluctantly probes Anakin's abilities with his mother. He double-checks himself by testing Anakin's blood. Qui-Gon wants to be absolutely certain in his supposition when he goes before the Council to claim that Anakin is the Chosen One, a myth regarding a figure who can bring balance to the Force.
You help him?
I don't know. I didn't actually come here to free slaves.
Qui-Gon is positively callous in his refusal to assist, telling Anakin's mother outright, "I didn't come here to free slaves." He almost sounds like he's trying to persuade himself. The Force tells him one thing and his Jedi training tells him another. Qui-Gon ultimately splits the difference and frees half the slaves, frees Anakin, whose route to freedom, while tricky, is still catered for in the Jedi ideology. Freeing Anakin's mother would mean contending with the Jedi Council's doctrine of non-attachment and separation, so for Qui-Gon it's ultimately easier not to think about it too hard. In the end, he is crucially incapable of seeing slavery as an evil in and of itself worth destroying, and in this failure he dooms the Jedi Order. Qui-Gon is an interesting figure from the perspective of the original trilogy, a new addition to the cast, unnamed beforehand, who is formative for all three of our trilogy of protagonists. He trains Obi-Wan, teaches Padme to trust the will of the Force, and inspires young Anakin. Crucially, he also fails all three. He cannot free Anakin's mother, he hurriedly concludes Obi-Wan's training to take Anakin as an apprentice, and he abandons Padme once they reach Coruscant to the manipulations of Senator Palpatine. He's positioned as the best of the Jedi. He is, after all, the one we're given to follow for the bulk of the film, and the Council are a bunch of old fuddy-duddies who can't see the Sith Lord right under their noses. Qui-Gon is our introduction to the functioning Jedi Knight.
Obi-Wan is ready.
I am ready to face the trials.
Obi-Wan's dubious training is heavily hinted at in the final scenes of the movie, trapped as a forced observer behind a series of red force fields as he watches the sinister Darth Maul slay his tutor. Obi-Wan's rage on the death of Qui-Gon is none too subtly coded as a reaction of the dark side, the red glow over his face making him a mirror of Maul. His stance behind the force field, tense and anxious, recalls Maul more than it does the quiet meditation of Qui-Gon. Somewhat interestingly, Obi-Wan's defeat of Maul is echoed in the final conflict of the Obi-Wan series, as Kenobi is thrown by his opponent into a pit, which he is able to channel his intense emotions into vaulting out of. To some frustration, Qui-Gon's return in Obi-Wan amounted to a cameo of a few incoherent sentences. It really would be fascinating to hear his ghostly perspective on how subsequent events to his death played out. The show was unwilling to provide them.
Well, took you long enough.
Apparently he appears in the Lucas-governed animated series, which I haven't seen. Phantom Menace is not without flaws. It's hard to begrudge someone finding the use of accents for the Trade Federationists distasteful.
I knew it. They're here to force a settlement.
Distract them. I will contact Lord Sidious.
By all accounts, Lucas was attempting to address the issue head-on by some dubious means during the design of the characters' voices, but the consensus since is definitely that polishing specific cultural indicators off your Fu Manchu villains does not liberate them from being Fu Manchu villains. Love that goofy puppet mouth though, a good choice for a villain who is literally a puppet.
I'm a Toydarian. My tricks gonna work on me. Only money.
I found it easier to digest Watto, the slaver who seems to barely live better than his slaves. Watto always struck me as more of a hard-nosed New York guy stereotype than anything else, like Bob Hoskins playing Super Mario.
Are you telling us that you can arrest a guy for being a plumber? Get out of here! Get in there, plumber! No! Hey, what is this? All right, what do we do? I'm getting arrested for being a plumber!
But then I'm hardly an appropriate judge to deliver this verdict.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
The "I've been wondering what are midichlorians" conversation is a notable clunker dialogue-wise. It has the feeling of a late edition, interjected to explicitly explain to audiences that the Jedi can measure the mechanical aspects of using the Force via science. This is one of the most interesting and disruptive elements that the prequels wrote in over the top of the original films, making a mockery of Yoda's airy pronunciation that we are all luminous beings, that the Jedi are a religion of universal spirituality. The Jedi Knights were cracking out the calipers when things got really serious.
Luminous beings, Zoe, not this crude matter.
Obi-Wan,
Yes, Master.
I need an analysis of this blood sample I'm sending you.
Wait a minute.
The elements of The Phantom Menace that have been much derided in years since the release of the film did not hugely bother me. Jake Lloyd is perfectly competent as Child Anakin, certainly by reference to Child Leia and Child Luke from the Obi-Wan series. He's endearing and filled with childish glee. The yippies are a bit much, but hardly a cardinal sin.
Yippee!
Jar Jar similarly is a coherent component of the film as the cartoon rabbit who steps in the animal dung. I have no complaints. I am surprised they never went back and re-rendered Jar Jar with some more modern materials. He mostly looks acceptable with some occasional dips into unconvincing, but he'd be a good candidate for a special edition.
We cannot prioritize one lone Jedi.
He is not just any Jedi.
The most notable reflection for Obi-Wan in The Phantom Menace is the metamorphosis from a story concerned about general evils to a story concerned about a specific evil. Palpatine announces to Padme that the Republic is not what it once was.
The Republic is not what it once was.
That the system that governed the galaxy has lost its power and its way, setting the stage for his ascension to the Supreme Chancellorship and thereafter the Empire. The Empire is an answer for this chaos we see, manufactured though some of it is. Palpatine has manoeuvred the Trade Federation, to be sure, but the Senate's inability to decisively resolve the conflict is authentic. Their inability to tackle slavery on Tatooine is authentic. It is a failing government, and the Jedi are papering the cracks for it, pressed into the nakedly corrupt position of being sent out as the Supreme Chancellor's enforcers at the start of the film.
You are all the future. You are the future. You're what needs to survive.
Obi-Wan's focus on the Empire as a state oppressing the Jedi is completely alien to this film. It is unthinkable. An untrained Jedi child is no more threat to the Empire than is Sebulba. Anakin's Force sensitivity could easily be left to rot on the vine to no large calamity, and the possibility of doing so is seriously considered by all involved.
He is to be trained then?
No.
Being Force sensitive is treated with all the awe of being found to be math sensitive, an advantage in many fields, but really only an indicator of potential. The decision whether or not to train him is what will make the difference. This butts uncomfortably against Obi-Wan's ingrained notion of the Jedi identity, rescuing Jedi children, the rebellion helping prevent the Empire from rooting out unknowing Jedi. That story simply is not this story. Furthermore, the Empire itself, even here, is the Republic's dirty secret. Qui-Gon, Kenobi and Maul push from the picturesque halls of the Naboo Palace into the back rooms and find the Empire waiting there for them. Gleaming floors and banister-free walkways aplenty. There is continuity between the gilding of the dying Republic and its Jedi enforcers and the Empire, and this first prequel is unconditional about this.
We will watch your career with great interest.
When Anakin, defeated in Obi-Wan, tells Kenobi that he is not responsible for creating Vader,
I am not your failure, Obi-Wan.
Well, Obi-Wan has created the entire Empire, insofar as every Jedi helped create the entire Empire. To rebel against it from this position is incoherent. The rebellion should scorn all Jedis.